Central Tucson could look drastically different in the years to come should developers get the okay to move forward with several projects. One of the latest proposals concerns the future of the St. Benedictine Monastery in the Miramonte neighborhood. During a recent community meeting, the developer and architect revealed plans to build luxury apartments around the monastery. The buildings would stand 7 stories high. Neighbors are pushing back. Tucson City Councilman Steve Kozachik oversees the ward where this project and many others are located. We asked him what the council considers when reviewing these proposals.
When a project comes along, each one rises and falls on its own merits. And so we look at the project, we look at the proposal, we look at the architectural elements, we look at what, how tall it is, the massing and all of that. And then you overlay that next to what's around it. Is it, in the case of the Benedictine, is it next to single-family residential areas? We're going to move forward with this project, but I have to tell you, Vanessa, that when we saw the proposal at the public meeting that we held last week, it was jarring. It is 7 stories that dwarfs the existing chapel. It's next to single-family residences. It is completely contextually inappropriate given what's surrounding it and the height and the massing in the chapel itself. Ross says that he's going to build 7 stories. My message is we can play chicken if we want. I'm not going to blink. I will take the position and have told him that I believe that what is being proposed is contextually inappropriate. And there was an audible gasp in the audience when he put up on the screen the proposal.
And of course, it's not just the Benedictine Monastery. There are a number of other high-density projects in your ward, in particular, projects and proposals. Can you highlight any that you're excited about or that you're behind? And then, on the other hand, some others that are maybe more concerning to you.
We have about 5 projects right now in Ward 6, each with their own dynamics. We have a proposed 20-story project at Campbell and Speedway. That has gone through a significant public participation. And frankly, that from an architectural standpoint matches what the area, it's not immediately adjacent to residential areas, it's buffered by the hospital and by commercial. That is in a completely different situation than what the Benedictine is, which immediately is adjacent to residential. We have a student housing proposal at Speedway and Euclid, again, immediately adjacent to residential areas. It's 7 stories. I've spoken to President Robbins about these student housing projects that are going on the outskirts of campus. And my suggestion and proposal to him was, why don't we bring these projects back within the campus footprint? There's plenty of surface parking. There are some old dorms that are 2 and 3 stories over west of the football stadium. Knock some of those down, go vertical within the campus footprint. Then you don't have this rub out in the community like what's happening at Speedway and Euclid. That's another one that I think has challenges. On 4th Avenue, there are a couple. One is using the infill incentive district, and my concern about that is, again, it's student housing across the street from the district. When we put the IID, the Infill Incentive District, together, we specifically said in the location they're building, we don't want student housing. And so it's prohibited. The way they're getting around that, though, is they're proposing to rent by the room instead of by the bed. So they're kind of threading the needle, saying that it's student housing, but it's really not because of the way we're leasing it. Again, maybe completely compliant with the letter of the IID, but certainly not the spirit. And there's another one on 4th Avenue that is market rate apartments that is going to be about 150 feet tall, but that's stepped back from 4th Avenue and it's completely consistent with what we proposed when we put the IID together. So as I said earlier, each one of these projects is site-specific, context-dependent on what's around it, what's being proposed, what's the underlying zoning, what does that allow, versus what they're asking for through a rezoning process.
How many of you are here because the existing structure, the monastery, the chapel that we're sitting in tonight, is the most preserving it is the most important thing to you? Okay. Most of you. All of you.
There's a compromise to be had.
Another question.
He said at the meeting, if I'm the builder, it's going to be 7 stories, then maybe you're not the builder, man. At that point, then maybe we pivot and you sell it to somebody who will build something that fits the context of the area and fits what the community's after.
how endangered is the monastery at this point, would you say?
Well, I think that it's a canard for him to throw out on the table, saying that if it's not me, some student housing development company is going to come in here from Atlanta or Topeka and knock the thing down. This community would rise up, and I would be with them arm in arm, saying you're not going to knock that building down. It is an historical architectural icon in this community. It's not going to be bulldozed and to put in student housing. It's simply not going to happen.
And how much of a say does the community, do neighbors have in determining the fate of these projects?
Well, so he is asking for a rezoning. If he goes through the rezoning process, there is a significant public involvement. That doesn't mean he has to agree with everything the public is asking for, but there will be a zoning examiner hearing, a formal neighborhood meeting. The one I held last week was not the formal neighborhood meeting. And there will be a public hearing in front of the mayor and council. So there are 3 bites at the apple for the community in terms of changing the design, downscaling the height and the massing. At the end of the day, the mayor and the council have the final vote on whether or not to approve what's being proposed. If it's a rezoning, that's the process. If he simply says, I bought this understanding what I was allowed to do on the property, student housing, 4 stories, and I can demolish the monastery, he can go forward with that without asking anybody anything. So the answer to your question is how much public involvement is there depends on what path he chooses. And I think he has heard pretty loudly and clearly from the community, if nothing else from the audible gasp that happened when he put the massing diagram up on the screen. They don't like what he's proposing. They do want to preserve the monastery, and they do want something that fits contextually in the area. And that's I hope, where we wind up on this.